for the
Dude, this is going to be trouble for me. My wife is going to love that piece of advice. If I'm getting up to watch the sunrise for the next 3 months after this one's published, I'm going to be down at your office going like, you owe me lunch, man. Like, that's fast. The body is a fascinating thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the I'm Here For It podcast. I'm really stoked about this episode, but whatever you got going on in life, whatever life looks like, the good, the bad, the fun, the messy, the crazy, I'm here for all of it. And our guests are here for all of it. And this podcast is here for all of it. This podcast is about having transparent conversations with real people, doing real good stuff with real good stories, and some not so good stories. But today's guest has some insight that I have been really curious about getting to. I have been really excited about asking this guy some questions. I know him a little bit, hoping to get to know him even more through these podcasts and through our time together. Fascinating guy through a ton of stuff business-wise, very entrepreneurial, and also has insight into some really important stuff that we just got to talk about. Welcome to the I'm Here For It podcast, and it is my great honor to introduce Dr. Buddy Touchinsky.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, pleasure to be here. This is great. These are always fun, and just love the chance to sit down and talk with you and all your people.
Yeah, so I've been super excited about this conversation. It's been on my mind for a while. I know I just reached out to you recently, and we made it happen pretty quick, but having this conversation with you has been on my mind for a while. You spend some time and bump into my brother Matt a lot, and I even picked his brain like, man, there's some stuff I need to talk to Buddy about. And he was like, yeah, that would be a great episode. Our connections are loose, so we have a lot of in common things.
Right.
Both Blue Mountain baseball alumni. You're a very good baseball player, but we never played together. You were just
a couple years
younger. Yeah. And but we have like the same history with the same coaches and the same stories and probably very similar memories because those guys were characters, and so were those teams. You also have mutual friends like Wayne Herring, who I've had on this podcast, local business coach, and you spent a lot of time, I think, with my brother Matt in a mastermind group.
Yep.
And
don't forget Gettysburg.
Yeah, we did some trips together.
2017, we had the mastermind week. A couple days down there with Wayne's group.
That was wild. So we've done some of that stuff. And I'm really excited to talk to you about medical stuff, about business stuff, because you're kind of my neighbor now from my office here in Orgsburg. You're right across the street with PEAK. What's the full name of
PEAK Integrative Medicine?
PEAK Integrative Medicine. And I have friends that have gone to you for stuff that I don't want to get myself in too much trouble too early. Let's just say the medical system, the traditional medical system, was unsuccessful in helping. Or maybe a better way to say it is like didn't have answers. Or maybe didn't dig.
Let me rescue you.
Yeah.
Let me rescue you here. So I think our medical system serves most people well. And because of our population, we have a ton of people here.
Yeah.
And it is even this area especially is medically underserved. Like if you look at the ratio of family docs to population, there's probably not enough to serve the people that's here.
Yeah.
So in a system like that, you have to be able to address the masses, and I think it does an okay job at doing that. But occasionally you're going to get those people where they don't fit into that box, and they don't fit into the system that's, and I'll say this, it's mainly driven by the insurance companies.
Yeah.
It's not the doctors. The providers are doing what they can to keep their head above water. We hired a few out of that system, and what I suspected is pretty much true according to their stories, where they only have so many minutes per person to spend with, and if it's anything outside of the basics, they gotta refer them to a specialist because they don't have the time to go into the deeper dive testing like we do. They don't have time to sit and talk with them, and they try to, but they can't. So what we really do well in serving, I see us as they used to call us alternative therapy or alternative medicine. I like the terminology used in a lot of the research. It's called complementary and alternative medicine. Yeah. So we complement what they're doing. So if you have someone that is that needs a little bit more time or needs some outside of the box type of things, like whether it's testing or procedures, I think that's where we fit into our community. And you mentioned entrepreneur. I like to see entrepreneurship as solving a problem in the market. So this is the problem that I saw in this market. And then we launched PEAK about 3 years ago.
Yeah, there's so much in there. Before we get to some of that stuff that I've been dying to, we got to get to how you got to PEAK. Because you've been through some ups and some downs on your journey. I think sometimes people look at a successful business like you have going on over there, and it's pretty neat to watch the stuff you're doing and to hear stories. Like, I get to, one of the benefits of my job is I hear people's stories on a different level than maybe most of the people around them do, except for maybe the people close to them, obviously know more than I do. But people share things with me, and it's been cool to hear like the success stories that have come out of there, you helping people that, your practice helping people that have not found help maybe in the traditional system. It's been really great. But it wasn't like you just popped up, opened shop, and did it. Like, you had a journey going through there. You had a chiropractic practice. You had a health food business that you ran for a while. You've had some ups and downs on your journey. What's been like, give me a short trajectory of like where you started to where you are right now on the business side of it.
Yeah, so came out of grad school as a chiropractor, and wasn't sure where I was going to open up a practice. I knew I wanted to be on my own. I kind of always like had that in me. I knew I didn't want to go and work and punch a clock and work for someone else. So I knew I wanted to start my own. And my parents had purchased a building right down the street here, and it had an apartment above it. So I think that was their way of kind of roping me in to bring me back to the area. And I could have resisted that. I could have said, like, no, I'm going to go out on my own and go where I want. And my wife, who was my fiance at the time, she was down in the D.C. Baltimore area where she was from. But I'm like, you know what? This was a damn good place to raise a family. I know the schools; they're great, and cost of living very reasonable compared to most other places. So I said, sure, why not? And so open from scratch. That first couple of years, just a lot of sitting around twiddling my thumbs, waiting for patients to call, and slowly built from there. And then got into it about 3 or 4 years. I needed different space. We were in an old model building. It was a home model, so a residential home. So it was kind of split out weird. So went looking and found the place across the street where I'm at to this day, and had to tell mom and dad, hey, I need to move out. I'm breaking my lease. So we got through that. That was okay. And the new space was so much better. So we had extra space. So I started talking about diet and lifestyle, and I started recommending things, and they weren't found around here. So me and my wife were big fans of Trader Joe's, because she had one down where she lived when she was down by Baltimore. And so we decided to recreate that on a much smaller scale. And that business was there for 18 years. I would say we never caught the world on fire with it, but we broke even, and we supplied the community with products that weren't around. And then it got to the point where you could find those things at Redner's, Giant, or wherever, online. So we decided to shut that down.
Was that difficult?
Earlier this year. Yeah, it was 18 years. You're doing something, and the people were great that worked for us, and that was probably the hardest part, was telling them, like, hey, we got to make this difficult decision. It was probably 2-3 years past due, but the time was right, and we decided to do that. And from once I announced it, probably every day for 2 or 3 months, I questioned whether it was the right decision.
Really?
But now, 2 or 3 months after the fact, it's I think it was the right decision.
I love that you're so honest about that. That's not something that people usually project or talk about. Making a big decision like that's a huge decision, people's livelihoods. And I think if you haven't walked through that, it's easy to assume that, you just flip a switch and move on to the next thing, or you make a decision, and it almost has like a cold feel to it. But you sat and wondered if that was the right move or not, which is probably reality for like everybody making decisions. There's always like that post, hey, should I have done that? Like, what kind of like flipped it for you that eventually kind of settled and had some peace about it?
It was probably the fact that I can now give my 100% attention to what we're doing at PEAK. And we're growing there. We're adding new services. And even though the store almost ran itself, it still took some attention away from me. And I wasn't there to help the people and support them. Now they would probably say that was okay, but I always felt like I want to be more involved. I want to help them out. So that was a tough part of it.
What's driven you on this journey? I mean, I can see this about you. You're driven, you're a focus driven guy. Like, you have a why, like what has been your why this entire time?
It's helping those people, like you mentioned, some people that you talk to where they're not helped by the usual system. So it's finding things to help them. And why? I don't know. It's something I've pondered myself, and I don't know if I've come up with a good reason, other than it's just something. It's I like problem solving. I like thinking of things outside the box and finding unique ways to approach these problems, and so it's kept my interest more than anything else I've done. Whether it's the health food store, the chiropractic was great, but I could only serve so many people through chiropractic care, and it was neck and back pain and joint pain, and I knew I wanted to do more there. I had a couple gyms. We didn't mention that, but I had 2 gyms that I'd bought and sold since then, and because that was all kind of like in my late 20s, up to my mid to late 30s, it was trying to figure out like where's my place, what can I do to help people, and
that's your why.
Yeah. So
you seem like a guy who is driven to help people that nobody else is helping, or maybe that are kind of on the fringe, or I don't know what the right terminology is for it, but like you have an eye for seeing a need that maybe other people aren't really seeing or paying attention to. No, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
like when I'm looking at you from the outside, that's what I see.
Man.
I think, I'm glad this guy is in a county that I love. It's a county with really big needs, especially physical health type needs, among many other things, right? Like anywhere you get people. I love Schuylkill County. I know you love Schuylkill County. We both have chosen to move back here and raise our families here, and it's important to us. But it also has great needs. And when I look at you, I think, man, there's a guy. Like, I don't see a businessman trying to find his, angle at being successful. I think you've already been successful this entire time. I see a guy who's like driven to help people that maybe aren't being helped as well as they could be.
And to be honest, I like being the underdog too. So I know we're going to talk about baseball perhaps a little bit, but it goes back. I was the smaller guy. I was a late bloomer. And I remember Tom Kramer, who was our head coach back then. And what a character, what a great guy.
Yeah.
And taught me a lot about baseball and life. But he said something along those lines, like how I was a smaller guy, but I tried harder, I think, and I hustled all the time. And I liked being more the underdog than the favorite. Because when you're the favorite, you got a lot of pressure on you. So I felt like if I was like a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon, like, I'm supposed to do the job. I'm whatever, and the experts. But as a chiropractor and what I do now with functional medicine, it's people are coming to me as like a last resort. So I'm already kind of the underdog. And so when you're able to help someone, like there's a lot of satisfaction.
Oh yeah, that's a big win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that about you. I admire that about you. Also, you're a phenomenal baseball player. I didn't get to see you play, but I was like, Matt, Buddy played baseball. What was he like? And he said he was a really good ball player. Were you middle infielder?
Shortstop.
Shortstop. That's what I would have guessed. Yeah. So that's even bigger, like undersized late bloomer, but locking down shortstop at Blue Mountain during a pretty good era of baseball.
Yeah, we won the league when we were there. It was like we tied, I think, three or 4 years in a row. Schuylkill shared the title with either Pottsville or North Schuylkill, and then our year we got fortunate at the end and pulled it out and took the top. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. It's interesting when you talk about TK because, I feel like I learned a lot. I had a great dad. My dad taught me a lot about being a man, like always did. But we had this other voice showing us what it meant to be a man, and man, how has like baseball and that experience served you in the last 20 years of this journey, 15, 10, however long?
Yeah, I played a lot of baseball. I started late there too. I started when I was 11.
Yeah.
In Little League because we moved around a little bit when I was a little bit younger, and then settled into Orgsburg here and started at Orgsburg Little League. But just learned a lot of lessons. I think all sports teach us lessons, and it's more than just about the athletics and more about the sports. And I don't want to forget Fritzy.
Yeah.
Charlie Fritz, he was instrumental too. He was the infield coach, so I spent a lot of time with him. But both of those guys, and I had great role models too with my dad and my grandfather, and they were kind of cut from the same cloth as those two. So I didn't mind them like some people feared those two, where it was just like that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
But one lesson I remember with TK was we were up in like Northwest Lehigh or something, first game of the year, and it was rainy and cold, and everyone was just complaining and just oh, it's so cold, it's so rainy, it's so wet. And he pulls us together and he's like, he just talked without moving his teeth, and he's like, the weather you're complaining about, it's the same for both teams, so shut up and get out there and play ball, because they got the same conditions to deal with.
Yeah, you probably skipped a word in there.
I'm trying. I don't know what
it's whatever. You don't have to worry about it. But that's hysterical. And he has like that way where it just drilled something into you. I had another, I guess it was Wayne on here, maybe Wayne or one of the other baseball alums, and I think it was Wayne, and he carried with him like how they just drilled in you like you never quit. Like it's not over till it's over. You just never quit. I took one thing from him that like I remember him getting us all together, and it wasn't even like a big speech. I think it was preseason my junior year, and he pulled us all together in the classroom. And he goes, be a student of the game. And he gave this little 5-minute speech about always, no matter where you go, no matter where life takes you, even when you're old and watching it on the couch sometimes, just always be a student of the game. And that one stuck, and I like took that into every part of my life. What I do now, people, understanding people, like all of that has been just keep learning and like be a student. I think sometimes in today's culture, I think in the travel ball world and, like all the things that are going on today, sometimes I think the impact that a coach can really have is not an area of focus. Everybody's kind of chasing wins, and we forget that there's a lot more going on than just climbing the ladder, jumping teams, getting wins. And having a coach that's willing to invest in your kids' lives in those kind of ways is just invaluable.
It's how you do it too. Like you can be super talented and be kind of lazy, and you'll get by a lot in your talent, or you can put in the work and work hard. And I think that's one thing that they taught us as well, is like you might not be the most talented team out there, but you can still beat these other teams. And for a lot of people, the coach is their father figure, I think, for a lot of these kids. And so it's important for them to understand that and watch what they're saying to people, and watch how they're conducting themselves, and watch how they're coaching them, and not just for the game, but through life.
We were blessed to have people that did that for us. Chuck Fritz. I went to his funeral. I guess it was a couple of years ago now. Yeah. But all those guys really cared about us as people, as men, and invested in us more than baseball. I feel fortunate to go through Blue Mountain in that time, and I know like Jared's over there, he's doing a great job. I feel lucky to have had that experience with those people.
Absolutely.
And when you bump into guys that were teammates, there's a bond from that, maybe a little bit of trauma bonding from some of this.
I was just going to say, it's funny you mentioned that, because it was like maybe 6-8 years after we graduated high school. And I saw a player out, an old teammate of mine, and he lived out the area, but he was back in the area. And I saw him up at Renniger's Market up there at the produce stand. And we were talking for a while, catching up, and the conversation was fizzling. So I said, tell me one thing. And this is Ned Dre, if he's watching this, or if anyone knows him. I said, when you dream about baseball, who's your coach? And is it TK? And he said, yeah. He's like, yo, it is. And to this day, I have less and less of these dreams. But if I'm playing baseball in a dream, it's for that team. Because I played in college. Yeah. I played Legion ball. I played for the Hamburg Reds. But it's always TK if there is a coach that shows up in the dream.
I don't know how we missed each other. I played for the Hamburg Reds too. That was a fun team.
Yeah.
Sweet uniforms back when I played. I don't know what they were like when you were there. But when did you graduate?
97.
97. So we just missed each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good Good times, great teams, good memories. Hamburg Reds were a lot of fun. I think I only played 2 seasons for them, but
Yeah, me too.
that was pretty wild. Great memories from those times. All right, so you have a unique perspective on our area, on people. If I were to ask you, like, what concerns you most about the health, whether it's physical health, mental health, whatever, just the whole person, what concerns you most about how people are living these days?
Yeah, one thing that once I came back, I was invited to be a board member of Schuylkill County's Vision. They've changed names right now. I think they're called Connections. But one of the things that we were focused on was looking at like the community assets. And one thing that came across was the county health statistics. And at the beginning, I think it came out in maybe 2012 or something like that. We were ranked third to bottom in the state in health statistics.
Really?
And one thing that I noticed back then was the other counties that were ranked lower than us and around us, it was around like the Philadelphia counties or around Pittsburgh or Scranton. So more urban areas, more economically depressed. And what got me was up here, we don't have a lot of the problems that they do there. So why are we struggling so much? And I don't know if maybe it is economics, maybe it's just complacency, but like we can go out to Hawk Mountain, 10-minute drive from where we're at right here and go hiking, or there's plenty of free trails in other places around here. We have farmers markets, we have farm stands, we have access to everything that we need here, I believe. So the question is, well, why aren't people using that, or why are our health statistics struggling to the point where we're near the bottom in the states? And I think we moved up, so we might be 7th from the bottom now.
It's still not good.
But we still have a lot of work to do. A lot of it's diabetes complications. So I know there's a lot of people with diabetes up here, a lot of obesity. And again, I don't know the answer exactly, but I figured, well, let's try to figure this out. Let's try to give access to people who need it. Let's try to expand access to care and do as much as we can to get people the screening they need. And if they want the help, because you got to know, at the end of the day, you got to want the help. I mean, you can provide free care if you wanted to, but if people aren't willing to make some changes, then it's going to be hard to affect them. And some of this goes, another concept I learned back then was this idea of social norms.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that if that's what everyone's doing, that just seems normal. And I remember when my wife moved to this area, like she would get like a nice Caesar chicken salad for lunch, and everyone was getting stromboli and pizzas for lunch delivered to the facility that she worked at. And so she was out of the norm.
Yeah.
And so everyone else looked at her like she was a rabbit. Like, what are you eating? And when she's looking at them, like, how can you eat this heavy meal and then go back to work and function properly? So I think it's all about changing those social norms, and they have over the years. And especially with social media, more people are sharing stuff, more people are getting more active. So this area has come a long way in the last 20 years that I've been here.
Yeah. Well, 3 to 7 is great, but like there's still some work to do. And one of the things that I love, we were talking a little before this, is like it really is accessible. The thing that like frustrates me, there's many areas I can improve my health, but I see a doctor regularly. I love my doctor. He's a cancer survivor. I get annual blood work. And that stuff has been really important just for awareness and tracking and paying attention to stuff. And we were talking, I mentioned that one of the things that frustrates me is how many men, I can't speak for everybody, but I have a lot of conversations with men. And ever since I wrote a book and talked about my own struggles with anxiety and some different things, I've spoken publicly about those things. A lot of the conversations are from men in between their 20s and 40s coming up to me and saying, hey, I really struggle with anxiety. One of the first questions I say is like, I ask is like, oh, have you talked to your doctor about this? And almost 100% of the time, the answer is I don't have a doctor, or I haven't seen a doctor in years. And I'm like, man, like that's that complacency piece that I think you've put in there that you mentioned, plus a norm, probably fathers that weren't seeing doctors, that have sons that aren't seeing doctors. And then everybody's kind of like complacent about it until there's a crisis. And you have made, I think in general, I guess what I'm saying is like, if you're a guy listening to this, like you need to have a doctor. of some sort. And it could be you guys over there. And one of the things I love about you guys is you've made it really accessible. You've worked with nonprofits to provide health stuff for people. You were saying, like, what's it cost for like an individual to just get visits with you guys?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different business model. We don't take insurance.
Yeah.
And I like to tell people that's a good thing because you have plenty of insurance-based clinics. And a lot of people feel like, well, I have insurance that covers everything.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Everything is only what they provide because they only provide it because it's covered by insurance. So there's this whole world of healthcare out there and testing interventions that you probably will never even have presented to you because it's not part of that insurance-based reimbursement
And they
system.
don't want to deal with it. And insurance companies don't want to pay for it.
Yes, it's why they don't want to pay for some of these things. I don't know, because a lot of these things are as effective or more effective than some of the stuff we're already doing.
Anytime you're dealing with a big corporation that has a lot of money, I think probably a tendency is it's less people focused and more profit focused. And when you have something that's more profit focused, even low hanging fruit that could help and be cheap in the long run, it's like trying to move a mountain to get to it because nobody wants to mess with the bottom lines that everybody's got dialed in. And the healthcare insurance part of things, I think everybody watching this should understand some of the frustrations with that. Even doctors that order stuff and then how many people get an MRI ordered or a CAT scan, and then you have to fight with an insurance company just to get approval for that thing. Your doctor thinks it's needed, and yet your insurance company wants to deny it and run you through other stuff first, trying to help their profit line. Like, I think everybody listening understands that system, not perfect.
Right. And again, it goes back to when you're trying to treat the masses.
Yeah.
And this could be Medicare, this could be government-based insurance, it could be private insurance. When you have so many people in that system, if you get a little too loose with those requirements, then you got a lot of people going for unnecessary tests,
right,
whether it's unnecessary that could harm them. So if you get an MRI and you don't really need one, you might find stuff that will never become a problem. But now that you find it, you got to deal with it. So I can understand why they put some brakes on it.
Right.
Like, well, I have a lot of people coming to me, they just twisted their back the other day. It's out. They're in a lot of pain, but it happened 3 days ago and they want an MRI. They're almost demanding it. It's like, all right, chances are by the time you get in for your MRI, which will take a few weeks, you're going to start to feel better already.
Yeah.
So we can always go there. There's nothing today that's going to change what we're going to do because you're in a lot of pain. We're going to calm it down. So you got that where you can actually do harm by doing more tests. So we got to watch that too. But if they loosen them up too much, well, now you cost the system too much. Whether it's Medicare, you bankrupt it. Whether it's a private health insurance where they have to increase premiums, which increase the cost for everyone. So I see why they do that. But then again, like I said before, there's those people where they don't fit in that box and they actually need something. Well, now it's difficult to get. So you figure for every, like in my office, when I had to pre-authorize MRIs myself, it was about a 15 to 20 minute process.
Yeah.
That's for one person. And imagine doing that now 10 times a week or more when you're in some of these larger clinics. They have to have whole departments to do this stuff. So now you just increase the cost overall. It makes it a headache. So now if you're on the fence about whether you need a test or not, you're going to kind of sway towards, well, maybe we don't need this. So less gets done. But it's just it's a tough system. And like I said, it's great for the masses. But when you're that person that needs something a little bit different, then that's where it gets difficult.
So you got the men, like in my perspective, maybe it's women too. I have no idea. But like you have people that aren't seeing doctors that probably should be seeing a doctor, at least checking in with somebody about their health, at least once a year. There's also, seems to me that I come in contact with a lot of people who still do not have insurance. And what I love about what you're doing is, you could provide healthcare for those kind of people, because you kind of, I don't know if go around is the right word, but you're not jumping into that insurance, the whole insurance thing. And when I first heard that, I thought, wow, man, that must be really expensive. And then from talking to my brother and talking to you, and I'm like, wow, you've made that pretty affordable. Like,
Yeah, that's the one thing we wanted to do with this new practice was, so I was starting the practice something called functional medicine, functional lifestyle medicine. So it's basically just getting people exercising, getting them eat right, getting them to sleep well, doing some extra testing to see what extra nutrition they need on my own. But one-on-one like that, it had to be expensive because of the time involved in the testing. And when it was only myself, you can only see so many people at once. So I wanted to, I would meet with everyone before they signed up for that particular program, and it was between $3,000 and $5,000 depending on the length and what testing they needed and things like that. So that's not cheap. And I'd had someone across from the table from me, like you are right here, and they'd tell me their story, what they have wrong. I would explain to them like, yeah, we can fix this, we can do this, that, and the other, and then I had to let them know the price.
Yeah.
And it's hard when someone's sitting there, you can help them. They need to help, but they start crying because there's no way I can afford that. So I took a step back and I'm like, well, how can we do this differently? And that's essentially how PEAK was born. So get a group of providers, have health coaches, have group visits, have group classes. So we do group Zoom coaching sessions once a week. And so we're building those efficiencies. And then technology caught up. So now everyone knows what Zoom is since COVID, because people were using Zoom. So we're able to use some efficiencies there, and some the electronic health records makes it easier to communicate with people. So we can have like basically online chats with our patients directly and kind of work out some problems versus like, here, try this medication and see in 6 months and see how it turned out. Well, people where their health's struggling, like they might need daily guidance in the beginning because sometimes you do something and it makes them worse. That could be okay. It could be not okay. So we like to know about that and like to be able to talk to people and figure that out, not months later or weeks later when they're still struggling for that long period of time.
Have you always been an out-of-the-box thinker? Like you're a problem solver. You said that earlier. You're solving problems for people and their health. You're also solving the systematic problems of some healthcare issues, and how do we provide this in a way that allows that person to afford it and to breathe a sigh of relief after that meeting instead of the tears of like, man, I want this, but I can't do it. Have you just always been like that, or is that something that's developed along the way?
I think to a certain extent, I was. I know my grandfather, he was, I guess, the entrepreneur in our family. He did everything. He was a mechanic, bootleg, coal miner. He had a restaurant with my grandmother. It was actually the gas station between St. Clair and Frackville. They had that for a number of years, and then they had a bar room and tavern, which back then you say bar room, but like bar rooms back then were kind of like social clubs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they had like Thanksgiving, like they had like all the holidays and stuff. So I think he was that type of person, and he was always doing kind of his own thing. Someone saying in not so good way sometimes, and because he's kind of a rough and tumble person himself. But I guess I got a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit from him.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who's got a problem they're staring at? Like, what's a good first step to like stare down a problem and work through it?
It's I learned this more recently on a podcast, and it was computer engineers and entrepreneurs, and they had this idea called first principles. And there's probably a lot of people out there that know what that is. I just heard about it a few months ago. But from what I can gather, first principles means when you're looking at a problem or how you would do things, you don't start with how it's already being done and try to fix it. You start from, say, this problem never existed before. This is the first time you're looking at a solution, and doing it the way you would do it, building it from scratch. And I know Elon Musk has done that with Tesla. So think of what you will of his political leanings and his personality, but he took the electric car, and instead of starting with like a car that's already like designed, he just built it from the ground up, and the way he would want to see it built. Versus trying to take something and slightly modify it. So it's looking at things from that perspective, and that's what makes me think, if I'm so bold to say, to come into almost like a family medicine type of practice or medical practice, not as a physician or someone that's worked for the system, but I have no knowledge of that. I never worked for a medical clinic before, a conventional medical clinic. So I think I was in a good position to just like, okay, here's how we're going to do things. And I almost didn't want to know how they were doing things. Like, let's just build it up. And believe me, a lot of mistakes along the way, and we've changed things a lot in the past 3 years. But it was a matter of, okay, here's my hypothesis, and here's what I think is going to work, and let's try it, and either it works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, oh well, we can start something else or try it a different way. But if it works, then great, we can build upon that.
Man, I couldn't love that more. I want to try that. Like, I'm like, all right, how can I experiment with that? That's a really good, unique way to look at something. And I'm thinking through that. I'm like, man, I remember when I hired one of my guys, Scott here is phenomenal. He's like, does all the music and production and stuff that we have here at the church part of what I do. And when I interviewed him, you know, we started a conversation. He's like, hey, I'm willing to help, but I've never done this before in a church. I'm like, well, where have you done it? And he's like, well, a bunch of bars. And he's like reluctant to tell me. I'm like, great, send me links so I can see your shows. So I watched his shows. I'm like, yeah, you're perfect. And he's like, are you crazy? And one of the things that happened is we hired him, phenomenal guy, great for us, great teammate. And I remember going like, don't hang out with anybody that's doing this in other churches. I don't want you to be a part of their groups. I don't want you to join a Facebook group, you know, with other worship leaders or production people. Let's just do our thing. And that was something that I think I accidentally got right, you know. That's such a unique way to look at it. Like there's freedom in that. Like, and I'm just, as you're talking about that, I'm like wondering, I'm like, all right, so how can we just do that in regular life? Like, how can we become problem solvers in our marriages, in our homes, with our kids? And there's something too like that, just like maybe you got to like empty all the ways that it's been solved or you've thought of it before and just start from scratch with the problem instead of buying a book, you know, I don't know, just swimming a little bit, but
that and be willing to try things.
Yeah.
So coming out of COVID, that was kind of like the control alt delete on my mindset that I needed to take this jump. And because I always had the idea in the back of my mind. But COVID taught me, like, before COVID, when would you ever think that it was possible the whole world would shut down?
Right.
Like where people would stop going to work.
It's crazy.
Where you couldn't, like, so it's like, okay, if that's possible and we all made it through, like you could probably make it through quite a bit in life.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in front of the computer screen. I had an email up from my landlord. He says, hey, we're building on. How much of it do you want? We got whatever, square feet. And I'd already talked to these other professionals that are with us now, my partners, and we were pretty much in at that point. And I remember thinking, like, well, if I'm like 85 years old on my deathbed and I didn't do this, that would just eat away at me. And at that point, there's nothing you can do. So I'm like, what's the worst that could happen with this? And I was in the group with your brother Matt at the time, and I joked around with him, and I was kind of serious. I said, well, if this doesn't work out, I can always go swing a hammer for you and work for an hourly wage. Like we're pretty modest in living, and we didn't have a ton of expenses. So like I'm not a material type person.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? If it fails, it fails. Like people fail every day. But if it works, it's gonna be pretty sweet. So
yeah. And you ended up with something pretty sweet.
Yes.
I've said that too. Like, well, I could always just go work for you, Matt. Just do something over there.
That applies to a lot of my friends that I talk to that or people that I know that I meet, and it's just like they want to do this, but they just don't take that leap.
I've been asking that question more and more to myself and to other people. Like just this last year, I've found myself asking that. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You don't make the team. What's the worst that can happen? Like, it's usually not as bad as we imagine it to be. There's some, it would be great, man, if more people started to take risks. This came up in another episode. There's lots of people that see problems in the world around them. Very few of them take the risk to do something about it. Even if they dream of solutions or they have ideas that would help. There's very few people that actually see a problem in their community or in their area and actually take a chance and risk something to meet that need. And if you fail, whatever, but like in your case, it's a shining example of like, man, this is an awesome thing because you were willing to step out of a box, problem solve something when other people would have gone about things completely different, in a way that serves people, that cares about people. And you created this amazing thing right across the street from me, helping lots of people.
Man, thank you. But I do want to say and be really, really clear that it's not easy.
No.
It wasn't easy in the beginning. It's still not easy. It's getting easier. But the first couple of years, I remember thinking to myself, man, I just created myself a job that I didn't really want. And I went from a chiropractic office and the health food store, which we weren't lighting the world on fire. I was making a couple bucks and making an okay living. And but I had plenty of downtime, and like it wasn't that stressful. And then I created like 100 times the stress for myself that first year or two. Almost ran out of money and almost went bankrupt, and wasn't quite sure if like people were going to accept this new idea. And it took some time to really educate and get the word out in the community about what we really do. Some people thought we were insurance. Some people that we didn't take insurance, so they just like put it out of their mind, like, oh, I can't afford that because this is for like wealthy people, and this is like concierge type stuff.
No,
and
people can afford what you do.
Yeah, so there was lots of up and downs.
In fact, it's and from what I know about it, it's way cheaper than if you were just to go out and get an insurance plan.
Yeah. Now you still need something, and we could talk about that a little too. There's something called health share plans.
Yeah,
I know there's Christian Sharing Ministries. There's MediShare. There's one that I use called Zion Health, where and just to briefly go into that, like the standard insurance plan for an individual is like maybe $600 or so a month, unsubsidized. For a family, it's more like $1,800. For the health share plan for my family, and it could be one kid or 20 kids, it's all the same price. It's $520 a month.
Really?
And we pay the first 1,000 of medical expenses. They pay 100% of the rest.
Dude, that's way cheaper than
So
I have what people would say is a really good insurance plan. And my business pays for that, so I pay the out-of-pocket stuff, right, on the other end, like my deductible and all that stuff. But even that is so much cheaper than what my really good insurance plan is.
So you got the health share for all those big expenses like hospitalization, surgeries, and then you got our practice for the everyday stuff, for medical visits, chiropractic care, and things like that. So for a family, it's less than like $900, and you're covered on both ends. And I would argue you get a little bit higher level of service because we only have hundreds of members versus thousands of patients per family medical provider. So it's easier to get in. You get to spend more time with people.
More attention.
And we get to know people a little bit better. So it's, and it's much cheaper. And now part of my other bold idea with the healthcare system is, what if we can show this works for all family doctors? And instead of working for these big conglomerates, these big hospital systems and big corporations where they feel like they're just a cog in the wheel and they don't have control over their own destiny and their own schedules, like what if we can show this works in little old Schuylkill County so that more physicians can go out and say, hey, I'm going to open a direct primary care practice and I'm going to practice the way I want to and have my own patient panel and not have to push so many people through on a daily basis.
I mean, now you're talking about really changing the world and the system. That stuff fires me up. Like, I don't know if you can tell, I have goosebumps right now. I love big ideas. I love when people have vision, and aren't afraid to talk about things that people say might sound crazy. And what if is probably one of my favorite linking of two words. I'm just like, man, because there has to be doctors out there that are also frustrated with the system.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
100%.
Because you don't get into that business unless you care about helping people. And there's there's just so many frustrations that, like all of them. Yeah. That would be really cool. I think you should take a shot at that. Let's get some doctors to like try this model out. I mean, you just need a couple family practices, right, to give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah. And if this works here, I think it can work many places, because I'll have other doctors that are interested in this that reach out to me because they find me through a Google search, and they'll say, I don't know if it'll work here, and I'm asking where they're located, and it's like the suburbs of Philly where there's actually a ton of money and a ton of population versus up here where our median income's probably half of what they have down there. So
now I'm thinking, like, what can I clickbait people to get medical people to watch this so that they get to this part of the podcast? I might have to put a controversial title on this. I'll make sure it's okay with you first, but like, I would love for somebody in the medical field to like just pop on and be like, hey, do they contact you? Has anybody thought about trying it yet? Like,
so these are, I didn't invent the model.
Right.
I just went out and looked at what kind of model can work for us. And then we came upon the subscription-based model. It's called DPC, or direct primary care. At the time we started, there was probably about 15 in the States that I was aware of. They're definitely in other states as well. I think we're one of the few that combine more of the complementary stuff, like chiropractic and some of the other therapies we do. So it's out there, And I think in the new Trump bill that passed recently, they actually carved out a place to make it official that
Really?
you can use HSAs to pay for it, because that HSA law was from 20, 30 years ago when these
Yeah.
practices didn't exist. So I think it's just going to take more of us sharing the success stories so that people will know, hey, this is an option. I don't have to go and work for a system. And there are hurdles to get over for sure. Like a lot of the physicians that were already here practicing, I reached out to, and they all have non-compete clauses with stiff penalties.
Really?
If they leave and open within 2 years or like 20 miles. And it just so happens you can't get 20 miles away from any of these big clinics. So where are they really going to practice unless they move completely out of state? So that makes it a little bit difficult. And they don't get much of a business background. It's usually, if you're going through med school, you're focused purely on the medicine. So they don't come out and then they don't necessarily attract those type of people, because you figure to get into med school, you got to be that 4.0 student that gets 100% on every test. So you basically rule followers.
They could just hire you to coach them on that side of it.
That someday that might be in the cards. I'd love to coach consult for other practices like ours.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty calculated mileage. 20 miles, non-compete, and just happened to be so close that pushes you completely out of the state.
Yeah, I think that's illegal, the legal max, because if you make it too restrictive, then they don't hold up. So 20 miles is kind of the standard. But yeah, if you worked for one of the clinics here, like down the street here, and I mean, can you get 20 miles away from one in the eastern part of the state? It's probably very difficult.
Probably very hard.
Yeah.
Be like on some mountain somewhere with a population of 13 people.
Yeah.
All right, so here's something else I wanted to talk about. I have not used mouthwash in a long time because I one time saw you post something about it, and I'm like, dude, that doesn't sound good. I don't need mouthwash, like it's something about how, and I don't even remember what, at the time it made a lot of sense. I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to, thank you, buddy. I'm never going to use mouthwash again. What's the top 5 things? Like, maybe you don't have anything, and that's okay. Or even if you don't want to say.
Let me talk about the mouthwash first, so I don't get all the dentists ticked off at me. So I like to present topics that we don't hear about a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because maybe it solves a health problem for someone.
Yeah.
And it just gets their mind open to some of these things. So the context of that was there was some research done showing that people that use mouthwash regularly had a higher incidence of heart disease and infections that would cause hospitalization. And people are like, what's the connection there? So we have bacteria that live in our mouths. Bacteria live all over our body. In fact, there's more bacterial genetics on and in our body than there's human genes. Like if we dissolved everything and just had on one scale bacterial genes and one human, the bacteria would almost outweigh the human.
Wild.
So they do a lot of important stuff for us. So in the mouth especially, they produce something called nitric oxide, which helps dilate blood vessels. It's antimicrobial, so it does a lot of good stuff for us. So people that habitually use mouthwash could be disrupting that and could be causing problems. Now, so the dentists aren't mad at me. If you go to your dentist and they say use it because you've gum disease and you need to use it for a period of time, but don't overuse it either. And oral health is important in general, so brush your teeth, floss, do all that stuff. And if you need to use mouthwash to get through something, great. But yeah, using that just to cover breath. Like I had one truck driver whose blood pressure was through the roof. I don't know if it was coincidence or not, but he said he used mouthwash about 5 to 8 times a day. It's because he smoked.
Yeah.
And he was on the road delivering, so he didn't want his breath to smell when he's dealing with the customers, so he would just take a swig out of the mouthwash, spit in the parking lot, and go in and see the customer. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I also am curious, what's like some things that people should avoid? Or maybe just make sure it's used in moderation.
So I would say like some tips that I have. One of the biggest things that impacted my health was sleep.
Yeah.
And I always told myself the BS story. It's like, oh, I'm a night owl. And I would tell myself the BS story. It's like, oh, I'm learning stuff because I'd be on like YouTube at night watching videos. And it was all good subject matter that was important for me to learn. But it was at the expense of getting good sleep. Yeah. So if I'd be up till midnight, 1 o'clock doing that and only get about 6-7 hours of sleep at that. So it was, I think it was even before COVID, I made the conscious decision. It's like, nope, 9:30, lights out. I want to be asleep by 10. And that just made me feel better and helps me be so much more focused and productive on a daily basis. So I'd say sleep. If you're not doing that right, you got to get it right.
What's the target? What's like the target rate?
It's different for everyone.
Really?
Like you have some people, they'll say I can function on 6 hours of sleep. But if they truly can, it's great. If that's true. Others most people I'd say need 7 to 8 pretty good sleep. I'm a big fan of these health trackers here.
Okay.
If you're listening, it's an Oura Ring. and it shows you overnight heart rates, something called HRV, which is heart rate variability, respiration, a whole lot of good statistics. And then you can do things to help dial in your sleep and help improve those statistics. So that's why I really like using this. But yeah, getting that good sleep is an important part.
I one time heard Justin Verlander in an interview, and somebody's asking how he's made it so long, playing. And I think it was maybe his last All-Star year. He's struggled a bit lately, but although he might have just pitched a no-hitter or had a really good game recently. But I remember in the interview, somebody asked him about his longevity pitching in the major leagues. And he said, well, I don't use steroids, so sleep is my steroid. He's like, if you ask my family, I sleep all the time, I nap a lot. He's like, that's my natural steroid. And that's all he attributed it to. His entire career and the longevity of it, that was the one thing he gave.
I believe it, and it's funny you mention that because it's one thing I hear often from ball players or guys in their 20s, 30s working out, trying to build muscle, is what can I take? I mean, there's all sorts of supplements out there, horny goat weed, Tribulus, there's all sorts of stuff out there, and I'm like, are you sleeping 8 hours a night? No, I'm up and I'm on Twitch or I'm on gaming until 2 a.m. and I get about 4 hours of sleep and then get up and go to work or school the next day. And it's like, well, if you're not doing that, don't throw your money away on a bottle of supplements because they aren't going to do a thing, because lack of sleep causes a decrease in testosterone. It causes that's at night is when we recover. So that natural steroid is absolutely right, because people take steroids to recover faster. Well, again, if you're not sleeping, you're already not doing the right things for your body. But that sleep is good for removing plaques in the brain and stuff that builds up during the day. It helps seal memories or connections of the brain so we can retain stuff better that we're learning during the day. So there's so many good things that happen with sleep, and that's, if there's one thing, you get that right. And if you're not sleeping well, then you got to figure out why. So there's sleep aids out there like melatonin, and some people don't do well with melatonin. So there's other things that we might need to check, like B vitamins, and there's some other formulas you can use. There's a whole idea of sleep hygiene, it's called. So you want to cool the room at night. You want to have totally blacked out. Even that alarm clock sitting next to you, if that light hits you, that light can disrupt your circadian rhythms. It's getting out in the natural light as soon as you can in the morning, because that resets the circadian rhythm for the next day. It's ideally, and I'm not a morning person, so I don't always do this, but ideally we'd all be getting up and out as the sun's rising.
Are you serious?
Because that sets that circadian rhythm for the day.
Dude, this is going to be trouble for me. My wife is going to love that piece of advice. If I'm getting up to watch the sunrise for the next 3 months after this one's published, I'm going to be down at your office going you owe me lunch, man. That's fast. The body is a fascinating thing. It's fascinating.
And it all goes back to, I sometimes wish I could go back and take evolutionary biology instead. And it doesn't mean monkey the man evolution.
Right,
it just means how the environment has shaped our genes over many thousands of years.
Right.
And it wasn't indoors underneath the fluorescent light.
No.
We had certain signals from nature that helped shape those genes, and our body responded to the environment, and it shaped how many generations formed over time. So it's being out in natural light. It's eating certain types of foods. It's getting physical activity. It's all of those things. And when we don't get those things, or when we throw that off, then that's when our body starts to have dysfunction. So they call it an evolutionary mismatch. So again, it's under artificial light all day long, and then at night we got the phone out and it's 6 inches from our face, blasting our retinas with bright blue light, which has only historically ever been available at noon or in the mid part of the day. So now we're telling our body hey, it's the middle part of the day and we want to set it down and go to sleep. And that's just not how it works.
That's so fascinating. I got to make some changes too. And my wife's going to be like, see, I told you, why didn't you listen to me? And I'm like, it's fascinating though, to think about that. And I think it just makes sense. I don't think fluorescent light was part of any design, and when you do those things and you kind of step out and have a night, I'm a night owl and I'm not good in the mornings, but when I go to bed early and I wake up early and I'm outside in the sun, if I'm going fly fishing or something like that, and it gets me out and I'm around moving water and I'm hearing the sounds and I'm not just looking at my phone or scrolling social media, I feel way better. And what I should do is I should go, hey, if that feels way better for one day, imagine how it would feel if you did it for months. I don't, but it makes sense. All right, so that's huge and very interesting. Do you have anything else like sleep?
Sleep's a big one. Food, of course, is huge. And it doesn't mean you have to eat like a rabbit or be a vegan or anything like that, but just eat whole foods and focus on your proteins. I like to focus on protein first, so you have your protein and then a couple veggie sides, and it's a pretty darn good meal. And occasionally, I love pizza, so I'm never going to stop eating pizza.
There you go.
But I won't eat it every week necessarily.
Right.
I might have it once or twice a month and really enjoy it and not feel guilty about it.
Well, that's just what I like about you too. It's like, yeah, you still do that stuff, just in moderation, and you're paying attention to it. There's a self-awareness that goes along with it. It's not depriving yourself of something, but it's also making sure everything's in balance.
Yeah.
What's the go-to protein for you?
Any meat.
Any meat?
I like venison.
There you go.
I really like that.
Well, venison's super clean.
During hunt season, I like to stock up on that. And then we'll do like, really it's anything. Like fish is great, like a salmon or anything like that. It's going to be good. We usually do like ground turkey. Yeah. It's a little bit lower in saturated fat. It's easy to make up. It's not super expensive. And
so you kind of keep the red meat dialed in a little bit?
A little bit. And I have some genetic things with my blood work profile that I need to watch. And so I really cut back on the red meat quite a bit the past few years, and saturated fat. Now, some people love carnivore. They eat that, or keto, where they're eating lots of fats. And I would say no matter what you do, no matter what dietary philosophy you want to follow, look at your stats. So get blood work done, see what it looks like, follow something for a period of time, get follow-up blood work and see what's happening. Because for me, it was going totally in the wrong direction. And due to various factors, one, I have something called LP(a) is high. So it makes cholesterol that you have like that much stickier. And even if everything else is perfect, it increases my heart disease risk by 2 to 3 times.
Really?
Something that's never checked. It's literally $20 to add to our panel.
Really?
And it's included in our regular panel, but it's $20 is our cost for that. And it's something other countries check. So for me, eating a lot of red meats and eating a high-fat diet or something like carnivore would be absolutely the wrong thing for me to do.
That makes me wonder how much we don't know about ourselves. Like the majority of individuals probably don't know important stuff about themselves because they have not gotten extensive blood work done. You think a lot of people are missing stuff that could make them feel a lot better, that simple panels would show them?
Oh, tons of. We even have people that they're having blood work done on a yearly basis, and we're seeing like some anemias and some things that they're never even told about. We had a few patients with chronic kidney disease, and we ask them, well, how long have you had chronic kidney disease? What do you mean?
No idea.
And we show them back on the last several years of their blood work, like, no, you've been trending towards that. So there's those people, and there's people that never have the test done, and it's almost like they don't want to know. And we go back to the guys in our lives that, and I guess if I wasn't in the field, maybe I'd be the same way. Now I'm the opposite, where I like to get my blood checked once a month as I'm tinkering and trying things. But yeah, most people have no idea. Yeah. And like for me, if I would have been in a different world or a different life where I'm not in healthcare and I didn't have that checked, I may have not done anything about it and hit 50 and dropped over dead, been in good shape, and people would have thought like, wow, he's in good shape. What happened? And we see this happen quite often, where people just have an event and they had no warning signs of it. So that's where I like to do the blood work, and test and not guess is kind of the mantra there.
So I get regular blood work worked up every year. That's probably, I'm feeling like maybe that's not enough once a year.
It's once a year is okay as long as nothing's wrong or you're feeling well and nothing shows up in that blood work. But it's very general blood work. They call it gateway testing. So they usually start off with like a complete blood cell count and a comprehensive metabolic panel, like liver, kidney function and stuff like that. If that general blood work is relatively normal, and normal ranges are pretty wide, so it doesn't always tell us it's optimal. It just tells us we're in the normal range. We're average. If nothing shows up that's way out of average there or abnormal, then there's nothing else to check. They don't look any further. Whereas we like to take some of that and expand upon it and look at different tests like B vitamins, vitamins A, D, and E, zinc, magnesium, and Now, a lot of people would say that's overkill or could be overkill. Yeah, if you're doing that to the masses, maybe, especially if they're not going to do anything about it. But our patients are coming in either because they're having issues,
right,
and they go to the family doctor once a year, and the family doctor says, hey, blood work looks great. See you next year.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to do. Whereas when when they're coming to us, they're still dealing with problems because they don't feel great, even though their blood work looks quote unquote great.
Right.
So that for us that justifies let's do a deeper dive. Or maybe you have people that just want to optimize. So healthcare, medical care is not for health optimization. It's disease screening and disease management, which is fine again for the masses. But if you want a little bit more out of that, out of your healthcare, and you want to optimize and function at a higher level, then I argue that you need to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I have this weird, I don't know if you know this part about me, but I have a weird relationship with medical stuff, ever since I had some traumatic stuff that happened in the 2008 range. Before then, I probably didn't think much about it, but ever since my mom died of pancreatic cancer, I lost a brother in a tragic accident. I have had issues, like probably mental health issues with health stuff. And I get hypochondriac. I'm the guy who thinks there's something always wrong. I've done a lot of work, been to therapy. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I want to know like all of this stuff. So I'm sitting here going like, all right, I probably need to figure out some deeper dives into the blood work. Even though I feel good now, and I think I'm trending towards a healthier way. I need to do better at some things, but I've been a slow crawl towards a healthier lifestyle the last 6 months. It's fascinating stuff.
And there is a fine line there. I'm glad you brought that up because like some people can't even wear an Oura ring because they'll feel great. They'll get up and they'll look at their scores, and there'll be a lower score than what they expected,
right,
and it'll like ruin their day.
Yeah.
Or they'll do some of this blood work and get so anxious about what we find that the anxiety and the stress is almost worse for them than not knowing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's always a challenge on our end, is putting that all into context.
Yeah, but you guys get to know, you have it dialed in so that you actually get to know the people that you're working with. So you know the stories. Like if I was your client, you would know that about me. Now my doctor knows that about me because I had this like big emotional spill out to him and sat down and we, there I am crying in my doctor's office. And, I had built some trust with him, and but like if I hadn't taken those steps, he wouldn't know that about me.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about what you guys are doing is you actually get to know on a deeper level each of the people you're working with, so you know their stories, and you know when somebody's going to have that issue or when they're not.
That, and we have to make the assumption that might be an issue. So we do a lot of education. Like I do a ton of videos. I'm working on for that blood work specifically. We used to do individual videos, like going through like your results and doing like a 10, 15, 20 minutes screen share of that, which is fantastic. But it's a lot, and it's a lot for us to keep up with. And then also we see a lot of the same patterns. So after doing this for almost 3 years, we were just taking all of the common patterns and then just pre-recording videos, and then you can go through and like I'll tell some people, especially friends of mine, usually guys, I'll start to explain it all to them. They'll be like, buddy, I don't care. Just tell me what I need to do. They don't want to know all the details. Right. Whereas others, they'll click on every single video, watch every single second of that because they want to learn more. And I'm kind of that person. So I create those videos for me because I want to learn the whys, because that makes it easier to get up and I'm going to take these handful of supplements in the morning because this is what it's doing for my cells and this is what it's doing to help me feel better. Versus otherwise it's just like, it just becomes like another thing that you have to do. It's a chore. So yeah, I like to build out our education for those type of people.
Well, that's fascinating. All right, so sleep, nutrition. You're not going to give me another mouthwash idea, are you? There's no other.
Something controversial like that.
What about oatmeal? I've seen you like, you don't have to get controversial.
Yeah.
I love oatmeal. I eat a lot of whole oatmeal. Like, that's not good for me?
It's not inherently bad for you. Is it great for you? That's the question.
Right.
So there again, it goes back to that mantra of test, don't guess.
Right.
Try to go without it for a couple of weeks, see how you feel. See if you lose a few pounds if you want to lose a few pounds. Get a continuous glucose monitor. So technology is great these days.
So oatmeal messes with your sugar.
It can. So I've had people where the only thing she was eating poor, like she gave me her food journal. Like she was eating salads for lunch and like veggies and lean proteins for dinner and not snacking, maybe some nuts and seeds. And but her blood sugars were consistently 250 to 300. Should be more like 120, 130, 140. Yeah. And she was diabetic, so she's on insulin, and she was on increasing amounts of insulin each day, and couldn't get it under control. So we got our continuous glucose monitor, which for those of you who don't know, it basically measures your blood sugar minute by minute, 24/7. So you can eat a meal and then look back at that 30, 40 minutes later, and you can see your blood sugar go from like 120, 130, and maybe it goes up to 140 or 150 ideally, and then starts to come back down within an hour or two. Or it might spike to like 300. So for this individual I'm thinking of, that was really spiking her blood sugar, and it was staying high for like 3 or 4 hours. So all we did was replace that with a couple of eggs, maybe a side of fruits, or skipping breakfast and doing some intermittent fasting, or just having more of what she would eat the rest of the day. Yeah. And then her blood sugars came down. She was able to reduce her insulin by like 80% of what she was taking.
Really?
Now, for the next person, they could try it, and maybe it doesn't have an effect.
That's so interesting.
And they're fine. It depends on how well your metabolism is working and how well your body can handle it.
Not just a one fix. It's not like you just go like, hey, everybody, stop eating oatmeal and everybody's going to be better. It really depends on the individual and the makeup and what's going on in their body.
Now, I like to mention it, and this is sometimes the difficult part of social media, is that often people will mention things because they call it pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
So if I'm going through and saying, hey, oatmeal's good for you, and the next person, oatmeal's good for you, you're scrolling through, you don't even stop for a split second. So marketers are taught to be a little bit controversial. And maybe I use this a little bit myself, but it's to educate people on, all right, maybe for you it's not as good as
I think it's great, man. I like it when you do that kind of controversial post thing, and like I stopped scrolling and I stopped using mouthwash.
But you got to watch the whole thing when someone does that, because usually, like, no matter, there's a Dr. Berg out there that's rampant on social media, and he's great. There's a Dr. Mercola who's a little bit out there for me. But if you listen to the whole thing that they talk about, it's like, okay, it's probably good for most. It may be problematic for others. You need to test yourself and see. So
that's the problem. People
you
don't
need context.
Yeah, people don't take I get nasty emails. You know, surprisingly enough, you know, all stuff I put on is all spiritually minded and hopefully positive and trying to help people, you know, in that from that lane. And I get nasty messages from other people in my field, but it's because people catch a clip.
Yep.
And they don't watch the whole thing. And if they watch the whole thing, you know, and part of that is on me too. I put a clip out there that's designed to get attention and to make people stop scrolling and say, hey, wait a minute. What if it's not always, what if there's a different.
You got to reach people.
Yeah. What if there's a different angle or a different way to say this than you've heard for your entirety of your life? And that makes people uncomfortable sometimes too. Yeah. But you know what? Like maybe there's a little too much comfort going on in all of our world, and you know, in all of it, there's just a little too much comfort. The longer I live, the less I think comfort serves us in any real way. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we should be more comfortable with sleeping 8 hours and waking up and seeing the sunset. But I think comfort can be the enemy of growth, and I don't know.
Maybe we call it complacency.
Complacency, yeah. That's good. Man, this has been a great conversation, and we've been here for over an hour already. I want to keep talking to you. I think maybe I'm gonna, if you're up for it, we'll have you back on. I think it'd be good to like maybe tackle some health stuff from time to time on this podcast. I think it'd be a way to get you in front of some other people. Maybe we can talk about some things that will actually help people be healthier. You know, in my frame of view, you know, it's the body is not something to be neglected from my worldview, and it's not everybody's worldview that's listening to this, you know, but in my faith, like the body is something that was a gift that we're supposed to care for, steward well. Health is important, not just spiritual health, but also physical health and emotional and mental health. All of that, I think, comes into like the whole of the person. And so these conversations intrigue me. I'm glad to share this with the audience and everybody out there that's watching this. I would love to keep going, but before we put a pin in this one, is there anything you want to say about PEAK? Like, how do people get in what's the best way for people to get in contact with you? And like, I'm really hoping that some people listen to this and maybe reach out for their sake, not to just promote your business, but I believe that you actually help people, with some really important stuff. So what's the best way? Anything they need to know?
Yeah, we have an amazing team, and I look back, and even a couple of years ago, if I thought I'd have the team that I have today, we have some great nurse practitioners, a great physician we work with, another chiropractor, myself. I think I'm not bad either.
Yeah.
And down to our RN, down to our office staff, everyone is fantastic, and they're really compassionate. They all really want to help people, and I often tell them that they're with us because they give a damn and they want to help. They're not just there to punch the clock, but. We serve, I say, mainly two types of people. So one, on one end of the spectrum, it's the people that want to be proactive about their health. You and I are in our 40s,
right?
I think.
Yeah, it's still barely.
40s.
Thank you for that, Bill.
Didn't want to assume, but now is the time for us to make hay, because we're going to set ourselves up for the next 30, 40, 50 years of our lives. So you don't want to wait until you're 60, 70 and have advanced heart disease, because then it's really hard to dig yourself out of that hole. So right now, or even younger, like I get psyched when someone signs up when they're like 30 years old and they're asking about the stuff that we're talking about today. So we got the health optimizers, we got the people who are proactive. They want to live a nice, long, healthy, productive life and free of disease and free of illness, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where people they're going back to their doctors time and time again. They're not getting any answers, again, often through no fault of their doctors, but just the system that they're in. But those people that go and they say, hey, I don't feel great, blood work looks great, all the normal testing looks great. Like we really do well serving those types of people. And that could be because of long COVID, Lyme disease, mycotoxin illness. Like these are all topics that we can really dive deep into. The chronic fatigue. So these are all like where people kind of look healthy on the outside, but they don't feel healthy.
Yeah.
And so we really serve those people well. But regardless of where you're at on that spectrum, I always do free calls for everyone. Right now they're one-on-one. In the future, we might do some group stuff, some webinars. But you can always find us at gopeakmed.com. And you can either sign up for a free call, or if we have a group webinar that you want to attend. And that's where we get to learn more about what you have going on. And then I paint a picture of how our practice and how our programs can help you address those problems. And then the last part of that call is we talk about the cost and how to get started.
I love that. It's super accessible, super easy. I hope some people jump on that website. I'm going to include that in the show notes and the description of this. It's go.peak.
Sorry. GoPeakMed.
GoPeakMed.com. GoPeakMed.com. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for being on here, man. It's been fun.
Feels like it was 20 minutes.
It does, doesn't it?
These are
an hour and 15 minutes, but it felt like it went like that. I feel like I mean, we talked about stuff I wanted to talk about, but there's so much I had that I sent you in that message that we didn't even get to. So we'll get this one out there, and then we'll do a follow up at some point and just check in, and maybe I'll have some blood work for you to look at or something.
Yeah, we can even go over that.
Yeah,
if you're open to it.
That'd be
fun.
Fun was one way to put it. Be interesting, fun, scary, crazy. Maybe we will do that. It sounds intriguing. It sounds like a good episode. And if it helps somebody, I could be convinced. Like if it helps somebody out there, I could be convinced to have my blood work gone over.
I'll share my own too, because it's good. It taught me a lot of things that I wouldn't have known about if I hadn't done so.
I better start getting some sleep before we do that. Anyway, thanks for being a part of this podcast. Thanks for listening. If this has meant anything to you, this podcast in general, I hope that you just give us a hand and do like, share, or rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That really helps us get the word out, man. I'm here for it. Whatever you got going on, our guests are here for it. Thanks to Dr. Buddy for being on here, man, and being here for the medical side of things. It's been such an eye-opening, intriguing, I feel like in many ways just a tip of the iceberg conversation about some of this stuff. Get healthy. Like just take one small step, whatever it is. Reach out to Peak. Get some sleep tonight. Wake up and see the sunrise. Turn off your phone. Who knew that was convincing us that it was lunchtime this entire time right before we go to sleep. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the I'm Here For It podcast. Just a quick reminder, the thoughts and opinions shared on this show are our own. They don't necessarily represent the thoughts and opinions of our employers, our places of business, our families, or maybe even people that don't want to be associated with us anymore. And honestly, sometimes we even question our own thoughts and opinions after these shows have aired. We're not doctors, therapists, lawyers, experts in anything except maybe overthinking things. Well, maybe some of our guests are some of those things, but for real, this podcast is not about offering you professional or therapeutic help. We're just here having fun. It's for entertainment purposes and maybe a little bit of education. Yeah, we hope it can make your life better and make you smile and encourage you a little bit. But seriously, this is more like a group chat that you didn't know you needed. So don't take anything too seriously from us without at least double checking it with someone who actually knows stuff. Stay kind, stay curious, and no matter how weird it gets, we're here for it.